A lot of us who covered that story, some of my colleagues at Channel 7 really wanted to sit down and talk about their remembrances as reporters covering a story that affected them both as reporters and as people.
I was watching Good Morning America when suddenly there was this plane, and that was probably on tape. Looking back, it was probably on tape, a small plane coming in and hitting one of the World Trade Towers. And myself, as well as the Good Morning America anchors and the field reporter that they had out there by that time, we all assumed that it was some sort of terrible accident, a small plane lost and just somehow getting involved in this terrible accident. Suddenly, the moment we caught sight of that second plane, it seemed so much larger, and we knew, you just knew then this was no accident.
I was just driving into work when the first plane hit the first tower, and I remember walking into the building here at Channel 7, and I've never seen the newsroom so quiet and so still. And we were all just like everybody else, watching in disbelief, feeling totally helpless. It suddenly hit me that my sister had just moved from Los Angeles to New York. And I'm driving and I'm trying to be professional, and of course we're all going, oh my God, what's going on? And then I realized, oh my gosh, where's my sister? Is she near the Twin Towers? I knew she worked in Times Square, but I wasn't really sure, you know, where the business of the day would take her.
For me, it hit pretty personally because, as it turns out, I knew 4 people who were working in the building, 3 of whom were business people who worked in the building, but the 4th of whom was a firefighter who had rushed into the building. When you lose friends in that manner, it really hurts. I think about those guys all the time, and sometimes I don't even like the anniversary coming up because I don't like reliving it too much, but they're just wonderful, wonderful people, and I think about their families a lot.
And you just had this sort of constant sickening feeling of, oh my God, this is bigger than anything I've ever lived through. And it was, of course, a day that we'll never, ever forget.
For someone who was born and raised in Washington, D.C., it was most certainly a difficult time. Your stomach never seems to settle down and get right, especially when you're standing outside of the Pentagon, a building that I have visited for a number of reasons many times. To see that gaping black hole and the elements of the plane spread all over and emergency vehicles everywhere. But it was probably one of the toughest assignments ever.
There was a fire, of course, that burned there for months, but initially it was just this like brown, yellow haze that filled the whole city, and it was surreal. Everywhere you go, there were vigils. There were people lighting candles. There were people looking for loved ones. It definitely was a time that changed the city, and I think it changed me. I can never stop thinking about it, never stop dreaming about it. It's something that sort of becomes part of you. It's something that just, you don't forget something like that.
For some reason, I was off that day, and just dropped my daughter off at school, heard the initial report on the radio. By the time I got home, saw the second plane into the tower, and since I wasn't working, I mean, I was glued to the television all day long. I'll never forget.
No, who could forget? I mean, we're watching our colleagues talk about it. I know I was watching Charlie Gibson on Good Morning America, as I always would before I'd come in to report here at Channel 7. And I remember when the first plane hit and they were sitting there going, so what's going on? And maybe there was a plane accident. When that second plane hit, he said, I think we're under attack. No. And I remember standing there feeling paralyzed, not knowing what to do and not wanting to leave home, not wanting to leave my family, but still having to come in here to Channel 7.
Just a horrible, horrible day, and a day we'll never forget and never should forget.
Yeah, when you see those images, boy, it brings it all back, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Yeah.
And we want to remind you that we have a complete listing of all the 9/11 events going on here in Metro Detroit on our website at WXYZ.com.
You can also watch the attack as it happened that day from ABC News and check out our live blog with pictures, all, of course, on WXYZ.com.